for those days when you were really, really struggling, kind of leading up to January of 2022, how would someone outside, have known that you were struggling if you didn't explicitly tell them so?
How did I know that I was struggling, or if I'm talking to somebody else?
Well, for example, your sister or, a close friend of yours, how would they have known that you were
Oh,
struggling if you didn't explicitly tell them that you were?
that's a good one. How would they have known? Whatever. I'm very outwardly. I appear like I'm always put together, but I'm not. It's very hard for me to show my emotional side. I think I always try to be very strong. Um, but I think therapy helped me because you have somebody to talk to without feeling like the judgment or um, without feeling weird about it the next time. But in doing therapy, I think I was able to make sense of whatever I was going through, which made it easier to talk to my close friends. So
Right.
somehow in therapy, I think you're able to make a problem less of a problem, or you're able better to articulate it maybe. So even like with my sister, I think being more open and honest with her only happened because I had done some work to make me accept where I was in my life.
I love that. I think it's important, and it's perfectly fine to the answer being, "I don't think anybody would know," because I think on the flip side of it, oftentimes our loved ones also feel a degree of guilt and shame because they didn't see it, they didn't know, they wanna figure out how can I go back in time and help the person that I love? Just recognizing that you may not necessarily be in that position and don't feel, the guilt that you may feel, you can give yourself a little bit of grace there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
thank you for that. Last question I have for someone who's listening to this and, maybe they're starting to do the Googling, they're starting to do the social mediaing and trying to, recognize that they have an issue, but they don't know what their first
Mhm.
step could be. What would you suggest to that person?
Um, I think keep Googling, keep researching. I think find a way to define what you're going through. Everybody's experience or relationship with alcohol is very different. But I do believe once you're able to put a label on it, um, it helps you address what the problem is. And I say this because if you do say have alcohol use disorder, you're physically, chemically, um, mentally dependent on alcohol. My way wouldn't be your way. There's consequences if you just abruptly stop alcohol. You know, so I think start off by you know find your community on social media and Google, Reddit. Find an answer to maybe what you're going through, and then find somebody to talk about it. And I think the somebody could come in very many forms. There's a lot of coaches out there. I know there's apps. I've never really leaned into apps, but I know there's a lot of apps that kind of help with sobriety. Um, and by talking, I think you're able to now come up with a solution for it. I would say identify, especially if you're trying to cut back from alcohol and you associated it with certain things, identify those things that you associate the drinking with, and then be prepared for those moments. So for me, if it was going out for dinner, like now I love my cans, I'll just take my NoLiQ can, it's 8.4, put it in my purse. I know I'm good for the night. If we're going to the club, I may take a bottle of something in my handbag and not pissing in the bar, you know, with my bottle from my purse. If I'm going to be around people, my friends who drink, I know I'll say by midnight, I'm done. Or, I'll
Mhm.
just choose not to go. And that's one of the things I think you have to come to terms with. It's like a process of natural selection. You kind of select and they select you. But it's finding the times that you're going to feel most triggered. Or and maybe you're not triggered, just at times you associate with drinking. Like if it's in the house on your own, feeling lonely, it's like find something else to silence that noise, whether it's investing in a hobby, whether it's reading, writing, journaling. Again, in the house, I love mixing drinks, especially in those moments when I'm feeding for a drink, because you can have so much fun with them. Make it bitter, make it sweet, make nonsense out of it. But it's filling in the times that I knew I'd want to drink. And I think lastly, identifying what the problem is, what you're trying to soothe with the alcohol. And not everybody may be soothed,
Yeah,
but I think that's a big part that you may not realize you drink. Because Ray, there's times that I miss that part of me that would drink. It's like this carefree person, who wasn't a doctor, wasn't an overachiever. I just the state of mind that I loved, and I sometimes miss it. But it's identifying what it is about
mhm,
those moments and really trying to work on, that nagging feeling. What is it?
yeah. I mean, it really is an opportunity for deep self-reflection, but in order to but it takes some getting used to in order to reflect deeply about oneself. It doesn't just come, overnight, but when you start asking the questions, you can start building up the muscle, so that it can come a little bit easier. But you're right, and I felt this as well. It's like, oh my God, I wish could
Mm.
be that guy. But I realized that guy, even though, maybe 7 out of 10 times it
Yeah.
didn't turn into a problem, there were 3 times where it turned into a real problem, and you never really knew how far that real problem was going to go, which in my mind, when you run that opportunity that cost analysis, it makes a lot
To
of
stay
sense to
away.
just, leave it alone and figure out
Yeah,
you stay away, yeah.
for sure.